Friday. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. and brought to you by our friends at the South Carolina Education Lottery, where apparently everybody in this state is winning but me. I keep buying tickets, and $10 is the best I've been able to do. So, JC, just kind of a heads up: if I win the $1 million thing, you will not see me moving forward. I will be gone forever from this platform. But hopefully, Darren Uscher sticks around. He's doing a hell of a job at the University of South Carolina. Gamecocks 9-3 this season, and it is now portal season and signing day season and all the other hashtag crazy things. But glad to have you, man. It is so great to see you. I don't know of a team in the country that went through a more wild ride than Carolina football, with the big wins and the heartbreaking losses and the ups and the downs. But my, oh my, how things can change quickly from day one to the final day of the season. Congratulations. What a hell of a year.
Yeah, appreciate it. What's going on, fellas? It's good to talk to y'all again. And it's funny. When you asked me to come on, I was thinking about the last time we talked. And I think it was like during one of our first fall camp practices when I had just got the job a couple weeks prior. So to think where we've come since then has been pretty special and pretty cool. And I've been a part of some really cool teams and programs in the past, cool games and cool seasons. But honestly, this has probably been the most fulfilling and the most fun, just of how we've won and in the ways in which we've won. And I think all of that has helped us carry over into what you all saw happen on Wednesday, what we're still doing and what we need to do in the portal. All of those things matter, and we're an extremely attractive destination for a lot of potential portal kids right now, as well as some high schoolers that are still out there.
And there's high school semifinal games going on tonight. We'll give everybody the list on that here in just a little while. Phil, by the way, everybody, Phil's here. He's just he is producing in the background. Matt Anderson joins from the late night show. So we're going to get into the portal stuff here in just a little bit with you, and we're certainly going to get into the kids that have signed and talk about future classes and all that stuff. But Darren, Shane's one of the best people on the planet, and he obviously we're all aware of all the stuff that's going on. 29 wins is the most ever in the first 4 years and things of that nature. So tell me about your experience, since we haven't had you on the air publicly in a few months. Tell me about your experience working underneath him in your first season at South Carolina, and how that you believe is kind of translates everywhere else to the recruiting and coaching staff, et cetera, et cetera. What did you learn these last few months?
It's been phenomenal. And I've had the pleasure of working for some really good, coaches and leaders. And he is, up there with all the great ones. Part of the reason is the care factor. I think he cares about you as a person first, before, someone that works, you work for him. It doesn't ever feel like that. He's in the trenches with you. He's willing to do whatever we're willing to do. And that permeates on down to the staff and then with the team. And then I think our recruits, and they feel that when they get on the phone with them or they get on our FaceTime calls with them, that care factor, and he's willing to grind and do all the things necessary to recruit at a high level in the SEC. And it's a 24/7, 365 job. Because if you're not talking to them, somebody else is, right? And even if they're committed to us, the hay's never in the barn until they sign on that dotted line that they did on Wednesday. And I can't say enough good things about him. I think in this business and in the landscape of college football that we're in, we need more people like Shane Beamer that actually care about people and that truly, truly care about the place that they're at, never want to leave the place that they're at, care about the fan base, right? Care about the fan experience, care about the players, care about their families, care about us as people, care about our families. I mean, our coaches' kids are running around this facility all the time. That just kind of shows you the level of care that he has in the family environment that he's created. And I think I even talked about this the first time I was on, was culture, right? And it's one of the reasons that drove me to this place was, I did my research too, and I didn't want to come back to my alma mater and have it not be the experience that, I had when I was a student here. And the places that I've been, the reasons we were successful at Oregon and Boise State was because of culture. And this culture is just as strong, if not stronger, than any place I've ever been. And I think you're personally, you're seeing those results carry out over onto the field. And to me, that's why we're having success on the field and then ultimately in recruiting.
Hey, Darren, I got a quick question for you. You kind of mentioned it, the hay is never in the barn until it's signed, sealed, and delivered. If you can, and if you can't, that's okay. Kind of pull back the curtain a bit and tell us what it's like, Monday night, Tuesday night before National Signing Day. So, these guys have great relationships, right? And you've been working these relationships for so long, but what is that? Is it a war room? What's it like? Is it an NFL draft type situation?
Every place, that's a great question. Every place does it differently that I've been at. Literally every place has been doing it differently, and there's no one, way to do it, right? But I will say this, and I've used this term for years, and Brian Harson and I came up with this term a long time ago. The night before signing day, shenanigans happen, right? That's the politically correct term. Let's just say I did not go to bed until 3 a.m. because I was on the phone with a certain prospect that we signed. I won't name by name until from 1 a.m. to about 2 a.m. Because if I'm on the phone with him, that means somebody else isn't. Right. And he was, wow. Not getting squirrely is not the right term. Just there are people in his ear. Right. And in this era in which we live in NIL, it's a factor. Right. And there's a lot of lip service that goes on, a lot of false promises being slung out there. And that can sway people's opinions, especially at the last minute. And there's a lot of pressure. So we didn't necessarily have a war room per se the night before. We kind of let the coaches get some rest. Obviously, it's been a long couple weeks since the Clemson game. And then obviously the very disappointing news on Tuesday night. I think everyone was very mentally drained. But in my eyes, I had to switch my focus pretty quickly. But the coaches are super involved in that as well. Don't let me downplay that at all. And those relationships won out in the end. We did not lose one recruit to any other program that was currently committed to us. So I think when you look at a successful day on signing day, it is if you get none of your guys flipped to other teams, and that speaks to the relationships that our coaches have built, my recruiting staff has built, Jessica Jackson and her staff has built, Clint and Luke Day. Everyone in this building matters, and everyone has a relationship with these kids, and obviously Coach Beamer as well. All those kids held strong because they want to be here and they want to play for Carolina. And so we were able to flip some guys as well. And those speak to relationships as well. We never stop recruiting. I know Coach Beamer has a slightly different philosophy as a head coach, and that's his prerogative, but he lets us continue to recruit them if we want them. And then he'll come in and when we feel like we need to bring him in. And he did a phenomenal job of that. So to answer your question, the nights before get the Monday and Tuesday. Monday was ramping up. There are some shenanigans on Monday. There were lots of shenanigans on Tuesday.
But was there any tomfoolery? That's the question. Shenanigans and tomfoolery.
Yeah, I mean, whatever word you want to say, tomfoolery, shenanigans. It was happening, not just with one prospect, but multiple. We like to say we're fireproof, right? So I put out a lot of fires, and our coaches put out a lot of fires the night before.
I'll tell you this, Darren. Don't let Shane fool you. I knew him when he was an assistant. He'd go the distance. But as a head coach, I mean, your time you can't waste time like that.
No.
Right.
Yeah, it was. Look, man, for early signing this year, I haven't seen this many flips in a long time across the country. It was flip city. I mean, you had Florida flipping everybody under the sun. I think those kids wanted to go to Florida and just wanted stability in the coaching staff. I don't think they did anything great, but to A&M, I mean, the whole country, guys were flipping from one school to another, but it was quiet on that part. You did some flipping of your own, so I think that's good. Here's my question. You put together, so this roster this year at Carolina was really good. Championship level. I mean, a break here and a break there. We're not talking to you because you're going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then hoping to beat Texas. I mean, you can compete with anybody in the country. So here's how they did it. And you guys did it. You guys put it together. it wasn't that they went out like Florida State and got everybody that was a 4-star and 5-star that Florida State or that Alabama and Georgia didn't want, right? It wasn't like they got all these guys with these big reps like Ole Miss. That kind of thing, you speak to culture, and I think the culture did make this team fireproof, because if this had been a different makeup of this roster, once 3-3 happens and you lose to Alabama, I think you got some guys that are cashing checks and chilling.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is this, because I've seen this happen before. How important now when you move forward, as you have more attention, is it going to be for you and your staff and Coach Beamer to kind of continue that digging in on the kid culturally, personally, to making sure he's a fit? And I'm sure you'll do it, but I need the fans to hear that, because, I think sometimes, because we're in this new portal period, and these guys are rabid. They've followed recruiting for forever. They're thinking 4-star, 5-star, offers from all over. Oh, he went to Southern Cal, whatever. In the portal era, that's not the best. I mean, you don't get a Demetrius Knight, if you go follow that. So to hear it from you, you don't anticipate anything changing with the plan and philosophy, right, when it comes to that?
Absolutely not. I think they've done a phenomenal job previously to me getting here, and that matches up with my philosophy, and that's what I told Coach on my interview, is that culture matters, character matters, fit matters, all those things. And I don't really give, a hoot what you were rated coming out of high school, because that all goes away the moment you walk in the door. And to re-rate someone coming out of college, I think, is a little bit silly. We pop the tape on, watch the tape, then get on the phone with them, then bring them on a visit. And if we don't like them, we let them go.
I'll take it. Yeah.
And so, to me, finding a fit at a place like this and with the staff that we have is of the utmost importance. And I don't care if they're a big name and they did really well. I'm going to be honest with you. There's already a couple guys that are big names that we've turned down. And the good thing about being 9-3 is that people are calling us, all right, as opposed to what I wasn't obviously here last year, but speaking with a lot of people last year, it was a struggle at times to get guys on the phone. Now it's the opposite. So you have to be actually extra careful, because you are having some attractive options reach out, and you really have to do your digging, and call their previous school, call their high school coach, call people that call my counterparts, GMs around the country, and ask about them. And we've already been doing that.
Sweet.
For a long time. And so I think the more that you can do that, the better that you're going to be. And, just because they wore a big name brand logo on the front of their jersey or on their helmet does not mean that they're going to be a great fit here. So we're going to be very selective, and we can be, because we're 9-3 and hoping to win a 10th game and hope to end this season top 10. And we're going to have a Heisman Trophy candidate going into next year. And if it's up to me, he should be getting some Heisman votes right now.
You're gonna enter the top 10 if you win, Darren. They're gonna rank you 20th if you win a game in the bowl game. This is that's for Coach Beamer to do the politicking there, but that's right. What the hell is going on out here?
I always say on the high school ranking thing, when you get into college, it's like they don't make the guy that's voted most likely to succeed from his high school class a doctor.
That's
you
right.
have to go earn it. Life starts over. So I just have one more question, and I know Jamie's got some questions about retention and stuff. So the in-state crop this year, there's 11. Hopefully there's one more, maybe. I don't know. You tell me. Don't tell me. But it's almost half the class. Talent in this state, and you saw it. I think it came out a lot in the Clemson game, but because those guys, they just don't do a lot of recruiting here.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It works for them. There's nothing against them. But you see all these guys, the defense was not a portal haul. There were some, like a Kyle Kennard helped, D Knight helped, but a lot of those were guys that came here and developed, many from within the state of South Carolina. What can you say about this crop of in-state guys and the talent in the state moving forward as our state becomes, it's about to double in size population-wise? I read an article, 50% of the people that live in South Carolina were not born here. I've seen the population, the population exploded in Florida in the 70s. That's equal to talent, especially in the South. So what can you say about the gold mine, in my opinion, you're sitting on with the great players in the state of South Carolina, great prospects in South Carolina?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. It's a great question. Again, the first time I was on the show, I think I mentioned one of the first things Coach Beamer asked me, if I were to get this job, what would be my number one priority? It was keep the best players in the state of South Carolina at Carolina. And that was my mission and my goal, because when I left here in 2011, those 2010 teams are what I remember as a student, right? With Clowney, Gilmore, Lattimore, Chris Culliver, all those guys, and the success that we had. So that was the goal coming in here. And I think we did about a best job as we could have done in doing that. And we need to do that moving forward. The best players in the state of South Carolina will stay in South Carolina, and they will play this for this university. And I think you talk about being fireproof. Those guys were the guys that were fireproof in that Clemson game. They will play just a little bit harder because they understand what that rivalry means, and they understand what it's like to wear that Carolina on their chest and that Block C on their helmet. And the more guys that we can get that understand that, the better. And I think the other priority was in this 26 class. This is one of the better classes in the state of South Carolina that I've seen since I've been involved in recruiting, and probably since the Gilmore days. And so that's been a massive focus for us. And I think you're seeing those results already start to come to fruition a little bit. And we're just getting started. And that's not to say that we're not going to branch out, but we're going to start home and work our way out. And so North Carolina is a huge priority for us moving forward as well. I have a board that's just South Carolina, North Carolina prospects, and those are guys that we have to get. And so that's going to be an incredible focus for us moving forward. And those are guys that are going to define this program. That's what this program is all about. I think guys from South Carolina, they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they are under recruited and they're maybe not in the spotlight as much. And those are the guys we want, man. We want those guys. And that's why I think our culture is going to remain strong and only get stronger from here. And the South Carolina Gamecocks are going to be a problem for years to come because of the guys that we're going to keep here in the state. And I can't be remiss without saying, I know there's a lot of guys playing in semifinal games and state championships. And I wish those guys the best of luck. And we're state champions ourselves, so I know what that feels like. All right. And so I know those guys want to stay at home and play for the state champion South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, I heard some folks' feathers were ruffled in the upstate after E-Man Warry and DQ Smith ran down the hill after the game the other day. I pointed out Clemson didn't even look at either one of those guys, and they've now beat them on their home field twice, so get over it. Nicky E-Man Warry is going to go to the NFL, and he's going to take running down the hill with him. Let me ask you about this. It's obviously a different era. You recruit all these guys, Darren, but the sad reality of it is you recruit them basically for 1 year, and then you got to recruit them again. They might be a little bit easier. I don't know. You'll tell us here in a second because they've got your uniform on. But player retention is a problem in college athletics now and across all sports. How does South Carolina approach and address that?
Yeah, I think it starts with your culture, right? If you have a great culture, those guys aren't going to want to leave. Whether you're 5-7 or you're 9-3, right? And credit to Coach Beamer and the staff before I even got hired here after a 5-7 season that was not up to the standard or of anyone's expectations. Keeping a lot of those guys here and those guys staying and wanting to prove that they're not 5-7, that they are 10-3, right? Hopefully 10-3, right? So that was a great job. We need to do the same. Because we got a lot of guys that are getting a lot of attention from other programs around the country, as they should. All right, because they're really good players. So those conversations started during the first bye week. Okay, continued during the second bye week, and that's been one of my main focuses. I look at this roster building in 3 phases. It's high school recruiting, it's retention, and it's the portal. And all 3 parts are equally as important as the other, but you really want to focus on keeping your current roster how it is, because our roster is really dang good. And we need to supplement it with the portal and with high school recruiting. And I think we're going to we've done a great job of that with high school, and now we're going to do a really good job of that in the portal. But it's it's a lot, right? And a lot of these guys, as you had success, they all a lot of them have agents now. There's very few that don't. So it's on the phone with agents and constantly every day usually, and just trying to figure out guys' value and to get them to stay. And I think that's the other piece of this, right? Value is high here because we are in a very, very, very good spot in terms of our resources here at Carolina because of NIL and the support that we get from the Garnet Trust. And I would be remiss without saying that Jeremy Smith does a phenomenal job. And I pretty much talk to him more than I talk to anybody else in this building besides Coach Beamer. So me and him are in cahoots, and we work together on everything. And he's just as passionate as I am about this place. And, we're in a really good spot. I think we obviously don't want anyone to leave this place. But if they do, we want to help them out or maybe it's over, they want to be a starter and they want to play somewhere, and we'll help you. So I don't think anyone's really left because they necessarily were disgruntled or had any bad feelings. Everyone that has left on great terms, and they're great kids, and we're currently helping them out. And I always tell them I'm willing to help them out and call any school they want me to if they end up leaving here to better their situation. So what we've done a really good job is prioritize that earlier on and make guys feel wanted and as they should. But ultimately, I think it goes back to culture and wanting to be here because we're building something special and we're just getting started.
It's interesting. I remember having a conversation a few years ago after Coach first got to South Carolina, and it felt like as soon as the season ended, Darren, and obviously you weren't here then, it felt like at that point in time, they were kind of trying to – this was all so new, right? And so they were trying to figure out, all right, the final game of the regular season was just played. What do we prioritize? And I remember there was a lot of coaches off on the road, going to see guys, whatever. And then there's a lot of kids who were in that locker room going, I haven't even had a conversation, and they're out recruiting other guys. I don't know what to do. And so I find it so fascinating now that how the staff, all these staffs, you can tell the ones generally that don't have it right. The ones that do have it right, how they figure out all of their time, like y'all do. You divide that up, you divide and conquer, you do what you need to do, you get all these things organized. And then it comes back to what we talked about earlier, the portal, which is just the wild, wild west of everything imaginable. You mentioned this year, y'all are getting banged on. Hey man, y'all got any spots? So what, I don't know if you can talk about this. Maybe you can. What is a priority in the portal right now for South Carolina? And how flexible do you need to be if that changes because of other decisions that could be made based on your current personnel?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the one thing too, I don't think it's getting talked about enough in the recruiting calendar right now is this is the first year ever we haven't done in-home visits. So to JC's point, that's probably why you're seeing more flips, in my opinion. You're not having head coaches in living rooms sitting down and eating with mom and dad or whoever their champion or caretaker is, right? So those relationships may not be as strong when there's not the closer mentality that a lot of people have had. It's all via FaceTime and phone now, right? So that has also changed, though. It's to your point, JB, has allowed us to spend more time with our guys, and that is why they changed that recruiting calendar. It wasn't so we weren't be able to go on the road and be in recruits' homes. It's so we can spend more time with our players, and that has benefited us obviously because our players like to be around here. All of them are usually here. I mean, I see Nick Eman-Wari here till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and D-Night and all those guys. They just want to be watching film.
Wow.
Watching film and
like what kind of, like the Lion King or the Santa Claus?
No, he's usually watching practice from that day in the defensive staff room. Then they'll come chop it up with one of us in the D staff or O staff room, and it's the most loose and fun environment I've ever been able to work in. But also when it's time to grind and focus, we all lock in, and I think that's why you're seeing that group sort of play out like that on the field. But to answer your question, It's fine. It is finding a true balance of that, and I think you can kind of infer our needs based on what we signed in the portal, or I'm sorry, in high school, from what we need to go out. And then if you kind of take a look at what we're losing, right, from a senior class standpoint, and then obviously with some pending decisions from some really good players that have a chance to go to the NFL and be potentially high draft picks. Those are all positions that we need to replace. But I will be upfront and tell you that you all three know this. In this league, it starts up front, right? Starts up front, starts and ends up front, both sides of the ball. So I can promise you that we are being super aggressive on both of those fronts, and we will not stop. And probably I will not sleep until we have the pieces in place to replace some really, really good players that have been at this program for a long time and have busted their tails and have freaking bled out there on that field. And you got a guy in Tonka Hemingway that freaking casts his hand up and wants to go back in the game, and just the grit that those guys showed should be the example of what every kid that we bring into this program should be like. Or Torricelli Simpkins that came from a smaller level school but has turned into one of the better players that this program has seen. We have the blueprint. All right. And then Demetrius Knight is probably the best human being I've ever been around in the sport of football. So we've got the blueprint, and that's why we're trying to get kids here ASAP for our bowl practices, to be able to have them be around our guys in terms of portal guys. And it ain't about the glitz and the glam. If they need to go take photos in the locker room and go out to a steak dinner, they ain't the right type of guy for us. It's more like a business decision. It's more like a free agent trip in the NFL, where they bring guys in for a day. They talk ball with you. We'll get them on the board. I want to see how football smart they are as well, and our coaches. And if they're not, and it's not a good fit, then we'll move on.
Hey, Darren, quick question for you. Go ahead, JC.
Oh, no, I was going to say on the note with the line of scrimmage, there were really two. It's hard offensive-wise linemen in the portal based so far. This thing changes every year. Really, two schools that were successful. SMU got, I think, 4 or 5, and they actually could block. Didn't work out too well at Oklahoma. No. Here, though, it didn't get talked about a lot, maybe because you guys had 2 starters in Bell and Simpkins. So that worked out. So the question, the whole year. So the question is, number one, do you agree that it's hard on offense to find good linemen? And number 2 is it a better philosophy, outside of the generic, we gotta just get the best we can? Is, in your opinion, just big picture, is it a better philosophy to get high school guys up front on offense and develop them rather than having to rely on the portal, since there's just not a lot of success, your own success notwithstanding?
Great question. I think it needs to be 50-50. So you saw us go out and sign 2 high school guys. The goal was in that 2 to 3 range. It wasn't to sign our whole class on the front. We need to develop young guys and then supplement with the portal on the O-line. It's very hard to find 4 or 5 starting offensive linemen and bring them all in and learn a new scheme. I mean, I think that's the thing that a lot of people on the outside don't necessarily understand. Just because they were good at, a previous school doesn't mean they're even running the same schemes, or their whole offensive philosophy could be different. And they were really good running that philosophy, but when they come in here, maybe a struggle for them to learn that, and maybe they're not as good at it. So, to your point, I know Coach Beamer and Dowell and Coach Elliott and Coach Teasley, they do a phenomenal job with the run game. What we want to do, and from a pass pro standpoint, we want to find guys that are young and can develop, and we can groom them. And then I get them down there with Coach Day. We get them down there with Coach Day, who I think is not talked about enough in our success this year. We've been absolutely out physicaling teams to the point where we've broken a lot of teams this year. And that, to me, all starts in the weight room. So that gives me confidence when in recruiting and our rest of our staff. I can bring a kid in like a Demola who has like crazy length and measurables, but maybe needs to put on weight. And I have absolutely zero issues that he's going to get right from a strength standpoint. And then Yimi Rodriguez in our nutrition center has just changed our entire team. Is one of the unsung heroes, I think, of this entire program that never gets talked about and many people won't know, but is so dedicated to his craft and getting our guys personalized weight gain or weight loss or maintain programs. All of that stuff is so important and allows us to go maybe get some not necessarily underdeveloped guys, but if they have the measurables and the traits, right, and really good feet and the length, like, well, let's bring those guys in here and they're going to get their bodies right. And so that gives them 2 years where they're not forced to play immediately, right? They can learn from a portal guy at tackle. Demola can learn from a Josiah, and he can learn from a Kaysen. And then when those guys head to the NFL, he steps right in and we never left. And then we might not need to go in the portal, right? And then we just keep developing. And that's the goal ultimately, is to just keep developing and then supplement here and there with the portal. I think if you rely on the portal up front, especially on the line of scrimmage, on the O-line, you're going to be in some trouble.
So, Darren, my question to you, and this is another pulling back the curtain, there's going to be thousands of kids that enter the transfer portal. And if you really wanted to spend your days just watching the portal, I mean, your phone would be buzzing every 15 seconds. So what is the process that you and your staff have for when kids enter the portal and, you make a board? I don't know if you have a dry erase board, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is, but how do you zero in on, okay, these are the guys we're going to focus on in the limited amount of time that we have to focus on them to get them on campus as soon as possible, to get them for that business decision, all of that. How does that work?
Yeah, great question. I don't want to get into super specifics. I don't want to.
Don't give away state secrets, man. Just keep doing whatever you're doing.
Leak a little bit of the secret sauce in a way, because every place I've been has done it differently, right? And there's no one best way to do it, but you do see how some staffs operate and why some have been successful and some haven't. I will tell you this though. I have a guy in our personnel room for every single position, and they are basically the CEOs and the head coaches of their positions. And I do want to give those guys a shout out too, with just the high school. We wouldn't have signed these guys without their relationships. Sam Survey at the O-line, Brandon Middleton at the D-line, Zach Prop, running back, Trevor Tweehouse, tight end, Kwame Agia-Minta, DB, Todd Haney is the quarterbacks, Sterling Harris, the edges, Drew Lindler, linebackers, and then Jessica Jackson and her crew. And then we have Zach Gordon, who is just the portal. All right. So his focus on the portal, but everyone does the portal as well. Basically each of them have their own position board. We are watching guys. I would say if you are, without getting too detailed, Matt, if you are starting to watch portal guys as they enter, you are too late. If you get what I mean, you can do a lot of things during the season. PFF is a great tool. It is by no means the above all end all. All right. We do not recruit just based off PFF rankings, but what it does show is, hey, this week, this player was the highest graded offensive guard. Let's watch him. Let's eval him. And in the event that he enters the portal, we've already got a grade on him. We've already watched him. Myself's watched them. Coach Teasley's watched them. The offensive staff has watched them. So when he does go in the portal, we don't need to wait to make a decision. We get in contact with him in the right way, legally, of course, and we get him here on campus and we go from there. That's kind of the short version, and everyone has their position. And I will tell you what, I didn't hire any of these guys, right? So I came into a brand new staff. I haven't hired got to hire one person yet. Unique situation coming in July. But these dudes and gals have absolutely knocked it out of the park. And they've bought into my vision, and they do a phenomenal job. And we would not be in this position, and this program wouldn't be without them. They're definitely unsung heroes behind the curtain, like you said, in the recruiting department that help make my life a lot easier as well.
Darren, we got about 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna just squeeze in one final specific question about the class. And then you take the floor with anything else you'd like to add before we get you out of here. This is me, just on the outside looking in, certainly the largest, but it's seemingly the most talented wide receiver group I've seen in a long time at South Carolina. And it could get bigger, but I know you can't say much on that right now. Describe them, please, and anything left that we didn't get to that you'd like to make sure that the public knows about Carolina.
Yeah. You see Malik Clark, Jordan Gidron, length and speed. That's what we needed. We thought we were kind of lacking that a little bit this year. Length and speed, that was a priority. And then you see the other guys in Brian Rowe, Lex Cyrus, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on Pup Sellers, Jaden Sellers. It's obviously the Norris's brother. I think he's going to come in here right away and compete for a starting returner position.
Wow.
He's a phenomenal punt returner, phenomenal kick returner. People sleep on him because he's, down there in South Florence, and maybe because he's Lenoris's little brother, but they're not going to be saying that for long. All of those guys, and then have absolutely can fly, and they'll be able to fit right into that prototypical slot position. I don't think there's a guy that we sign that is not going to be able to compete right away for a starting rotational spot. And I think the more guys you get in that room that can compete, it's going to raise the level of everyone else that's returning. So that was a priority for us. And myself and Coach Furry, I think the first kid that I ever talked to was Lex Cyrus. I was at my apartment in Eugene, Oregon still, and we got his commitment. We held off Penn State. We held off Penn State in the long run there as well. To sign a kid like that of his caliber and he has elite level speed, and he's also a guy that will bring return value to us. And I know Coach D. Camillus is super fired up about, because we need a returner that can really change the game, because we have the scheme, and we probably should have had a couple this year. And you guys obviously know that's Shane's baby as well, Beamer ball. And so all those guys that they were very targeted, and we were very and in a guy like Jordan Gidron, when we found out he could reclassify, we went even harder and got that one done as soon as we could. So we're talking about 3 guys that run sub 10.4. That's rolling, fellas. That's rolling, and that's SEC type speed. That's championship level type speed, and you can't put a price tag on that for sure.
Wow. Yeah, that's moving. That's almost as Anyways, I was about to crack a joke, but I won't do that. Any parting shots
for the emphasis on speed? It hasn't always been that way around here with wide receivers. So good.
Well, and especially too, I mean, you look at the corners that we face in this league, and the corners now are freaks, right? I mean, they're long. I mean, you look at Judge Collier, that's your prototypical SEC cornerback, in my opinion. So is OD as well. Yeah. But their length and speed, so we have to match that. And if they press, they've got to be able to get off the line of scrimmage, and maybe their speed makes them back up a little bit and play some zone, and that really opens up the offense for us.
I'm really looking forward to talking to Coach Beamer here before long, just so I can ask him how proud of O'Donnell Fortune he is. It has been just phenomenal. I love that kid. He's a great kid. Watching him develop, Darren, and turn into one of the best corners in the country. Country, not the league, one of the best in the country. He's going to go to the NFL. He's going to play for a long time.
Absolutely.
And, he deserves it. The pride of Sumter, South Carolina.
Right.
All right. Any parting shots, brother, before we get you out of here?
No, I mean, I do want to say thank you to the fans. Seriously, those environments that they create in Willie B every Saturday. I honestly, and this isn't just lip service, those mean so much. Kids rave about our game day environment. It is the absolute best in the country. And in those tight games, those kids, they leave on Sunday or Saturday, and they always want to come back. It's one of the reasons we got a lot of these kids. We did. I mean, Mike Tyler was here for almost every game, not because he didn't want to go to LSU. Trust me, they were trying, but he wanted to be here in this environment. And Lex Cyrus, right, goes to a Penn State whiteout twice, but then, or whatever they want to call it, and then comes here and is just like blown away because he was here, for the A&M game and the Missouri game. And it's just like that's the deciding factor. Everyone matters, all right? Staying till the end of the game, all that stuff matters. And then the way everyone is, from a fan perspective and the sports media, you all, and then everyone on Twitter and social media, kids see that. They really do. Kids and parents see it. They see how positive everyone is, right? As opposed to some other fan bases that can be negative towards their team. That stuff matters. And I have a lot of parents that have said how positive and how enthusiastic our fan base is, and they can't wait for their son to be a part of it. So, thank you to kind of everyone. Obviously mentioned, everybody in this building that does a phenomenal job, but the outside matters too. The tailgating, everyone, the game day scenes, kids see that, they want to be a part of it. This is the epitome of what SEC football should be. And we're just getting started.
Always a pleasure to have you. Well said. Congratulations. A hell of a year. You got another game to go.
Yes,
Somewhere
sir.
down in Florida, it seems. We'll all be there cheering for you. You're always welcome back, Darren. So call anytime, man. And hope you get some sleep. This is going to be a busy month.
No sleep for the weary, man. I'll sleep when we got our roster finalized, and high expectations, but pressure's a privilege. I'm honored to be here, and I pinch myself every day I walk in this building because I'm doing it at my alma mater, and this is my dream job, man. And it took me about 14 years to get here, but I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. I want to see this place be great for years and years to come.
Yeah, it's got a chance to be. Congratulations on all your success. Give Shane a hand pound for us.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you
Appreciate
soon.
y'all, man. Thanks,
man.
guys.
Yes,
Go
sir.
Gamecocks.